All right, everybody, we're going to start here in about 45 seconds. They're not listening. Rod, we're going to start in 45 seconds. That's all right. I just wanted to let you know, that's all. Rod, Dye, please come to the op. I'm sure. I don't doubt you. Okay, 15 seconds. Okay, that was nice. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the North Platte City Council work session here on Thursday, January 22nd, 2026 at 3:30 p.m. here in the council chambers, of course. Calling the meeting officially to order. Don't have anybody to do a roll call. Okay, go ahead. Do the roll call, please.
Here. Guy. Yes. Bowles. Here.
Lucas.
Here. Garrett. Flanders. Breaker. Here. And McNew.
Here.
Thank you. The current copy of the Open Meetings Act of the State of Nebraska is posted on the wall at the back of the council chambers. Just want to remind everyone that no formal vote or action will be taken at this meeting. I repeat, no formal vote or action will be taken at this meeting. Our discussion today is on the health insurance plan performance and renewal. And one of these two guys over there looking at their computing devices is probably going to start this. So whichever one of you is going to start, please approach the microphone. Make sure it's on, please. Little red light. And have your conversation. Or start your presentation, excuse me.
Do we need to identify ourselves?
Yes, please.
Tanner Patero with Hub International. You want my home address?
No, I know where you live. Is that mic on?
It's red.
Red light? Okay, good. Yep.
It's on.
Thank you.
Okay.
Please try to stay in front of the mic as much as possible. You don't have to breathe into it, but please try to stay in front of it as much as
You
possible.
don't want to breathe it? No,
Preferably not.
probably not.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I know everybody's super excited to talk about health insurance. It's so much fun. But Spencer and I are here to just run through, kind of year-to-date performance with the switching to a new TPA last year from going from Meritain and Aetna to First Choice Health and the M&A network. And then another thing we did this year is we looked at different PBM results, because now that we switched TPAs, it's like, hey, should we look at different PBMs, which right now we use Magellan, which is a version of Prime, Express Scripts in the background. So we have some data to go over there. So Spencer has some data on the plan. One thing I guess is on the plan performance, we are in a good place. The city is actually running at a slightly decreased trend. So, for this year is pretty amazing. If you talk to folks in our world that have been doing health insurance right now, this was probably the worst renewal season that anyone can ever remember. So small groups across the nation here in Nebraska, on average, saw 30 to 60% increase on their health insurance this year. Large groups like the city, so self-insured groups, on average, you look at this data, the average increase runs 3 to 5%. This year, they ran 9 to 15%. So a lot of that is, we're seeing a lot of sick people. So you also have a factor of a couple things. People delayed treatment because of COVID. We have much more chronic conditions. Treatment costs more now. So, that's driving a lot of things. So you're seeing groups in self-insured place like yours. So the city has reinsurance, stop-loss insurance. So once an employee hits X amount of dollars, the city gets reimbursed for any claims after that. I had personally a client that is self-insured, similar size to the city with employees, maybe a little smaller. They had no employees hit spec. So they had no employees get stop loss. They still had an 18% or 19% increase on their stop loss insurance this year. So, a lot of that is the stop loss companies are paying for the $1 million claims and they're losing a lot of money. So the rate's just going up. So, overall great news. The data is trending nicely. We can't really compare, I guess, dollar for dollar. The city this year in 8 months spent less in the last 8 months last year, but that's not really a fair comparison because there was different treatments, different diagnoses, different codes. So Spencer's got some data on percentage of Medicare. So, which actually the nice thing about Medicare, the way it tracks is it tracks with inflation. So plans kind of benchmark, I mean, in the background, percentage of Medicare. So a lot of plans, and you get into reference-based pricing, but we don't have, it's hard to explain, but the average plan, Medicare pays $100, right? The average plan will, the hospital doctor will bill the standard society 600% of Medicare. And so that's why you see this big, huge bill come in when you first go to the doctor or the hospital, and then comes back down. And typically the plan's going to pay 250 to 300% of Medicare. So the data we showed the insurance committee before is this year we're running at 186% of Medicare so far since we switched to First Choice Health. When Spencer pulled up the data for the last five years we were with Aetna, 5 years, you ran 224% of Medicare. So we're actually running at a lower percentage, so we're spending less. So, I mean, so some great results. So, I mean, things are working. I mean, the move to First Choice Health, I mean, it appears to be helping. We just don't have enough data to say, hey, it 100% saved us $500,000 this year because we moved to First Choice Health, because we don't have that exact data set. So, I mean, that's the kind of high points there. So, questions on all that spiel on the state of the market and kind of how we got here?
Maybe just to back up some information I'd share that ties to what he was saying. In the Nebraska Bankers Group that we and most Nebraska banks are part of, we didn't have 15 or 20%. They just did 9 or 10% twice during the last year. So I think that's about the same. But to your point, we're hearing across the board 20% is not uncommon at all. And so that's I can tell you some real data from our end too. It's right there.
That's a rough year.
Yeah.
And you don't get to just raise your rates 20% just because health insurance goes up.
Yeah.
And health insurance to most companies is a top 5 expense. I mean, so it moves the needle. So, which is unfortunate. And
I guess what I get out of this is that the electors need to elect older people.
Well-
So we're on Medicare.
I mean, there is some relief on plans when folks move off the plan and go to Medicare. So there, I mean, we do have some classes that we do across the country, I know, for other clients, of explaining Medicare, because Medicare is super confusing, and why Medicare might be the better choice than staying on the employer's plan, because people continue to work past 65. So, but yeah, but Medicare isn't free. I mean, you still have to pay for that. So it's nothing's free. That's what I think there's kind of a mindset is like, oh, I'm insured 65 and I don't have to pay anything for health insurance. That's not how it works. So, and in some situations, because I've ran numbers for folks and sat down with them, Medicare costs them more than on their employer's plan. So some of them keep working, which is fine. I mean, that's, if you're on a plan that's self-insured, you have that right. So, I mean, you have the right, if it's even a small plan, but the way it works on reimbursements is a little wonky. So. You ready to pull up your reports?
Yeah.
Did you want, I mean, Spencer can pull up the reports. Do you got those?
Yeah. Well, I've got a couple. I was gonna kind of back you up on a couple of points. I thought you guys might find it of interest. I know everybody else finds all of what we're talking about super interesting. By the way, sorry, I know I didn't introduce Spencer Thomas, Apta Health. I can give you my home address if you would like. I know you don't know where I live. So I actually,
He's on.
if the
No.
We're not on yet. Give it a second to sync.
Yeah, they might have so
So we were using them before.
I was just going to actually show you a couple of things that you guys might find. Oh, perfect. Okay. I'll show you a couple of things that you might find of interest just from a national perspective, because healthcare, is a really large topic that's being discussed right now nationally. We didn't talk about this in the last meeting, but I just thought some of Tanner's comments, I thought were of interest. So if you look, this is actually data by the largest reinsurer. Go ahead.
You want me to try my clicker? Just kidding.
Yeah, there you go.
There it is. It's on.
That's all good.
The other one's turned off.
That's,
Which is fine. If you guys can see that's.
nope, there we go. Nope. Okay.
Now we're good.
That one's on.
Yeah.
Okay, here
Okay.
we go.
Okay. That graph in the bottom right-hand corner, I know it's probably hard to see, but you can clearly see the line that's kind of taking place. This is the number of stop-loss frequency that one of the largest reinsurance carriers in the country that they're facing. You can kind of see the graph and how much that's shooting up. Something in this report that there's two more things that I want to just highlight is, again, sometimes people kind of point out, and I like the graph, it's the bubble graph. The pink represents cancer. So what is the largest claims that stop-loss carriers continue to see? What is driving and what is changing? You can see down at the bottom that some conditions have kind of moved down or they've moved up. What's interesting to me is that still in this country for the last 4 years, what is driving up our claims costs? The pink is neoplasms or cancers. The green is cardiovascular diseases. Purple is musculoskeletal, and number 4 is digestive diseases. So the top 4 conditions in this country that continue to be chronic ongoing claims, those are the top 4, and they haven't changed for 4 years. And actually the 4 years prior to that, I don't think that those have changed much either. But just kind of give you some interesting number 5. This is kind of, again, what you might find of interest, that dark blue bubble. That one is a respiratory disorder, which would probably fall into the era of COVID. So even during COVID, what's kind of interest, even during COVID still didn't beat cancer in terms of overall cost to the country in the form of large stop loss claims and those kinds of things. But this is, again, I don't mean to kind of dive into the bad news, but something that this report showed that I thought was really kind of sad is the percentage of overall $1 million plus claims by age group. So the age group that is causing the largest $1 million claims, you can kind of see it. You want to take a guess at what age group that is? Sub 10 years old. So actually the individual who we're most worried about causing $1 million claim is not a 65-year-old. It's somebody under the age of 10. And those are typically,
Spencer,
yeah,
what was the age group? I missed it.
under age of 10. So 10 and under see about 38.5% of all $1 million plus claims. 38.5% of those are under the age of 10. Nationally. Again, this is just national statistics. This is not anything with the City of North Platte. This is just national data, just stuff that you guys might find of interest. So anyways, just when Tanner was kind of talking about that, this report kind of came up and I just thought it was of interest. So where that lands for the city is where are we at from an overall perspective? And Tanner already mentioned this. Again, I'm hoping you guys can see this. The box in the top right corner, the reason that I want to bench you against Medicare is for a couple of reasons. Discounts are oftentimes a difficult, elusive game in our industry. It does, and everybody will do it. So I try to stay away from percentage off discounts and actually look at what as a percentage of Medicare did we pay. So there's an actual benchmark in that data. The other thing that's nice about it is it allows us to kind of cut across years. So we can actually take a look at overall performance of the plan across years because Medicare rates are adjusted annually with inflation and overall cost. So you can actually go back to 2019 and compare your Medicare costs, even going all the way back to 2019. So the data set that you're looking at right now is from December of 2019 through March 31st of 2025, which is right when we cut off and moved from Aetna to First Choice Health. And as an overall perspective, the City of North Platte was paying on average over that 6 years, you were paying 227% on average of Medicare across all of your procedures across the entire book of business. So that's claims going to Denver, claims going to Omaha, claims staying here. You were paying overall 227% of Medicare. Now, specifically hospital claims, again, all hospital claims, that was 311% that you were paying on average. So said another way, you are typically paying during this time a little over twice what Medicare would pay for that same given procedure, or at a hospital setting, 3 times that amount. Again, to Tanner's point, from a national perspective, we're seeing on average about 250 to 300% of Medicare is about the average. Some bright spot, and I think some good news to share, is that if I switch this and we go to where we've been for the last 8 months. Now, I want to be super clear. This is 8 months worth of data. And so, take it for what it is. You're comparing 6 years of data to 8 months of data, but I'm really happy with what we're seeing. So with the switch, we're now going from 227% of Medicare, we're going to 184% of Medicare. So we can pretty conclusively say, at least for the 8 months that we have so far, regardless of the cocktail of claims that the city has incurred, regardless of where they're going, we are paying lower dollar amount today for a given medical procedure than we were previously. Hospital was about 224% from an overall perspective. So I think that bodes really well for where the city is from an overall perspective. Again, maintaining good benefits for the city employees, while also managing those costs. Any questions on any of that? I know that this is all super riveting. We try to make it exciting, at least somewhat.
Spencer, on the, not to get into big
Please.
political discussion with vaccinations or anything, but what's the 10 years and under? What's going on there?
That is a deeply political discussion that I'm totally joking.
No, I mean,
I honestly, it's NICU claims.
Okay.
Anytime we have a situation come up where we have a premature baby and we know that they're in the NICU, we know that that's going to easily be $1 million claim.
so the NICU issues are rising have risen significantly post-COVID?
Yeah,
I can tell you for a fact they are, and a lot of it has to do with drugs.
Oh, okay.
So
Interesting.
preemies, like that's, if there's ever a time when my heart skips a beat is when I find out we have a preemie, because it's expensive. Now, again, not to speak again, as a father of 5, I want to be, the nice thing about a preemie is that it's typically one and done from the city's perspective. Looking at it from your perspective and your financial perspective, it's typically one and done. There's no lasers that are typically associated with it because, unless the mom's in a high risk, the carrier might have an inkling and may laser for something. But typically you're not experiencing a laser because of, it happens, goes away, and you move on.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
So it's a good question. So we're really pleased from that perspective. I know one other question that I think, and Tanner and I spent quite a bit of time on this, is the pharmacy side. And pharmacies being talked about a lot, for a number of different reasons. We'll talk about, dispensing fees. We'll talk about, just overall PBM management. So what we did is here, I'll pull it up this way. And I know that this data is really, really tiny, but, again, happy to kind of, zoom in and kind of go through a couple of things. So we took the city out and we did a full market shop with a number of different PBMs. KPP is Kroger. They're actually a really great PBM. We're actually using them more and more. We think they're a pretty terrific PBM. We did take a look at Ventegra, which is the same PBM that the hospital uses. Had a number of great conversations with Ventegra, CVS Caremark, and then you'll see like KPP carve out. You'll see a couple. Every PBM offers a little bit of a difference in their network, and basically what they're doing is they're tweaking the formulary, the medications that your members can have access to. So when you see PBM carve out, they're limiting some drugs. The national co-op we went to, we've got the big ones that you'd be familiar with. We went to CVS, we went to Optum, to Express Scripts, ESI. And then, there's a few other Magellan contracts, Prime, that we all went to. And what we found, interestingly enough, is that basically all of the PBMs from a total ingredient cost, I'll show you down at the bottom. Here, I'll scroll up. So down at the bottom is basically where the PBMs thought they would come in relative to where you're at today. So Kroger basically said, yeah, we actually think we would perform worse. We would actually cost the city $3,500 more to use our platform. Ventegra, interestingly enough, we actually got reporting directly from Ventegra. They actually self-disclosed that they thought they would cost the city more dollars. Our platform, based on their performance guarantees, we thought they would be at about a $22,000 savings. And then the rest of them, were basically at about $3,000 differences. Basically, and said another way, even all of these PBMs came back and they said, we don't think that we could really match or do any better than where the city is at right now from an overall performance perspective. Yes, sir.
PDM.
PBM is a pharmacy benefit manager. They are the ones. So the City of North Platte has contracted with First Choice Health to be your medical administrator. And right now you're contracted with Prime Therapeutics to actually administer your pharmacy benefits. You bet. So a few interesting points on this. I'll actually kind of show you. So this is all benching performance guarantees. So all of these PBMs say, hey, we think we're going to perform here, here, and here. And actually, I'll show you what I mean by all of this. And again, I know we're getting into some nitty gritty data, but I enjoy it, and hopefully maybe you guys might enjoy it. It'll make more sense when NBC is talking about the rising cost of healthcare in this country. You'll be like, oh, I know what they're talking about. So each PBM has different metrics that they're trying to meet. Specialty, retail brand 30, retail generic 30, retail brand 90, all these different categories. They're basically making a guarantee to the city saying, we will perform at X level, and this is the kind of savings that we can achieve. What you have to keep in mind is that the city, and actually let me change the time parameter. When you look at how Prime has actually operated, so we're comparing performance guarantees to actual how Magellan is performing. From an overall perspective, Magellan is actually outperforming their contract by $21,000. So, again, on a $6 million claim spend, I'm not telling you that's like lights out, but not only is Magellan performing the way that they are, but they're actually beating their performance guarantees by an additional $21,000. One other thing that we found of interest in our what we were looking at is rebates are another really big part of this equation. It's a really big part of the discussion. And so when we looked at the rebates, and actually we got a rebate report back from Ventegra, which was one of the ones we were taking a strong look at. Now, let me pause for a second. When you go to Best Buy and you want to buy a TV, how does LG get you to buy their TV over the exact same Samsung competitor? How does LG get you to buy their TV? Rebate. Hey, I'll give you $100. If you buy my TV over my competitor, I'll give you $100. Ironically, the pharmaceutical industry works the exact same way. And those rebates are oftentimes retained by the PBM as an additional source of revenue. It's a really dark, sinister game, in my opinion. And actually, as a side note, I think I've mentioned this before, but just as a reiteration, if you actually listen during the COVID era, when the CEO of Mylan, who's the manufacturer of the EpiPen, was on Capitol Hill testifying, getting grilled by everybody on Congress, one of the things, if you actually listen to what he was saying, it was funny to me, is he basically said that the actual manufacturer of the EpiPen not making a dime more than they were previous to the pandemic. But if you listen to what he said, he goes, the reason that the EpiPen now costs $600 versus $200 is because of rebates. And those rebates are often retained as an additional source of revenue for the PBM or the insurance company, whoever it may be. So because you're self-funded and because you're unbundled in the way that you are, rebates are passed back to the City of North Platte at 100%. Now, we're going to take this one step further because we actually have discovered that PBMs, again, still get their hands caught in the cookie jar, and they take portions of those rebates before they actually make it back to the client. So what we do is we have a direct arrangement with your GPO, again, using a lot of words, but basically we have a direct arrangement with the people who cut the check for the rebates. So the City of North Platte right now is on track to have about $270,000 coming back to the city in the form of rebates. That's over $250,000 in a year that you're getting on rebates that come back. And that just goes back into, the health plan fund. And that's something that Lane and I, as we're going through and determining budgets, we actually use that to offset in any type of increase. What I thought was of interest is when we were looking at Ventegra in particular, their own estimate for rebates for the city was about $140,000. So I think that's really good proof positive that the rebate contracts that we have you on are not just a little bit better, they are substantially better. And again, let me make a very clear point. I don't think that that's because Ventegra is doing anything wrong. I think it's because we're cutting out yet another middleman and actually filing those rebates directly on behalf of the city and doing it directly. And so we are cutting out, in essence, another middleman in doing that. So, questions?
There was one outlier that was, I guess I should bring it up closer to the mic. So of everybody that came in, everybody was almost a wash or a little higher, like we talked about, except one outlier was Lavinity, which is formerly known as Southern Scripts. Lavinity is projecting to cut the city's script spend in half. So part of this process, as we did the PBM process, is I actually talked to a couple of the local pharmacies because I wanted to know, hey, who do we work with? How's the plan performing? I mean, benchmarking, et cetera. So the one thing we found right away is Lavinity, Southern Scripts. I mean, none of the local pharmacies really run more than a handful, like less than a dozen scripts a year. So we don't know how the plan actually pays, because what this all shows on paper and what the pharmacy get paid are two different things, because the pharmacy has to contract, do different things, et cetera. So we brought this up to the insurance committee earlier, because it is a potential savings, but it's potential. It's not. Oh, did this shut off again? I didn't touch it, so I promise I didn't do anything. But yeah. So it's one of those things that we were discussing with the insurance committee before, and it is a potential savings. The insurance committee also had in the discussion before we had this meeting, we talked about, hey, how did we went through a big change last year. We had some bumps. Everybody had to update doctors, et cetera. So, the general consensus is they don't really want to change anything again this year. So, unless, it potentially could come, but for the savings, the general consensus was, we don't know what the guarantees could be. Livinity could say, hey, we guarantee we're going to save you $300,000, but in year 2, they can completely change the contract and wipe the guarantee, and then you pay twice as much as we paid before, and then we have to move PBMs again. So, that's one thing on the actual reporting that Livinity came in. We ran the data set multiple times, and they came in way better than everybody else. As a front leader. And if you look at the data on the dispensing fees, which is what, that gets paid at the pharmacy on top of what percentage they get. Livinity had the highest dispensing fee of everybody on the sheet, and the percentages were more favorable for the pharmacies. So,
If I could real quick, that's something that, because we had a couple of the local pharmacies that turned down some of our large prescriptions because they're losing money on them. And so they said, go to someone else. And so we had some discussion as far as the dispensing fee today. Would it make more sense if our plan page is a little bit higher on the dispensing fee to maybe help so we didn't have people having to maybe have some prescriptions at one pharmacy and some at another. So it's something we're talking about, but that's a different piece, but I think it's important for the council to know that is a piece of the whole
yeah. So
thing.
Talking to one pharmacist, they filled 1,300 scripts for the City of North Platte last year in just their pharmacy, and they lost $200 overall. So, and then depending on the fill, like the contract right now with Magellan has a $50 dispensing fee for brand. They get 0 dispensing fee on generic. So, or 50 cents. Sorry, excuse me. Sorry about that. But
They wouldn't be concerned about it if it was $50.
yeah, sorry. Yeah, 50. So, when you think about it, the dispensing fee is essentially, the thought of it is supposed to pay for like their overhead, the pill, the bottle, the label. We all understand that a plastic bottle probably is going to cost, it doesn't cost 0, and 50 cents isn't going to really cut much of that. Plus the time to fill, all the stuff that goes into it. So what you're seeing in talking to the pharmacists is some plans, Medicare and Medicaid now are paying in the state, and this is state negotiated. Nebraska does this. The dispensing fee is $10 for those programs to the pharmacies. So, I know that in other plans in town, the dispensing fee is pushing that $10 mark. And I know talking to the pharmacies, they're trying to negotiate the dispensing fee, because what you have is, if the dispensing fee goes up, they could potentially not have a net loss and have some sort of a profit. And it's not really a profit. They just didn't lose money, but they have something to pay employees, costs, et cetera, is the way it was explained to me. It's super interesting when you really get into it, because their side's completely different than what we see on our side. So, the dispensing fee is different on each drug, and it changes all the time, because the PBM basically has a contract in place that they deal with the pharmacies a completely different way than what the plan says it's going to pay. So, PBMs, right now, it's one of the topics in every state legislature on how to fix this, make it more transparent, to try to have some sort of control. So, because everybody agrees the cost of prescriptions is just out of control. So, and it has been for a few years now. Some states are suing, like some states themselves are suing PBMs. So.
What many PBMs have been doing for years is they charge the plan this, but they pay the pharmacy a much smaller number, and the differential is how they make money, is one of the ways they make money. And like he said, with the rebates is another way they make money. They keep 100% of the rebates, And so what happens is it pushes your local pharmacies out of business or towards out of business because they can't make any money. And then that's in essence what the local pharmacies have been saying with the existing city plan. And
And the numbers show, I mean,
Yeah,
they have the
and-
data to prove it.
yeah. And the fact is that what they'll do is they'll just stop taking the city plan at some point because they'll lose money on so many of the things. That's the issue for us, really, from that perspective.
For the employee, mail order, or how would they get
Or-
their prescriptions?
Or they
one of
go
the big
to-
box stores, the big box.
Yeah.
You go to the big box stores, they'll lose money on the prescriptions because they know if they get you in the door, you're going to buy.
Yep.
I mean,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
they,
Okay.
Yeah, but
Lane
that's
just said
different
everybody when they go to
contracts.
the pharmacy to buy candy bar and pop, right?
What do you say to get your candy bar and pop at the counter?
So did somebody have a question? Go ahead.
I just want to summarize that back and make sure I understand. So when you shop what our spend would be, it looked like it was generally in line with all the other options. But the local pharmacies, there's still too much cut out of the middle to what they're
not- yeah.
receiving.
The local pharmacy, like in some of those ones, because I've got a printed version if somebody wants to actually see it. But it is. I mean, Magellan pays better than Optum does. I mean, there's worse ones on the list. I mean, there was no really. I mean, great options for the pharmacy from their point to try to make some sort of profit. And I mean, so a couple things came up in the review committee that Spencer and I kind of talked about is we're going to go to Magellan, the current PBM, and ask, is there a way to change the dispensing fee for certain pharmacies or just for the plan? What's the cost difference? Because if you, for example, take a zero dispensing fee on 1,300 scripts and we change that to $10, it's $13,000, right? So, I mean, on $5 million, that's not really moving the needle, and we're helping a local business. So, I mean, but it doesn't have to be $10. It's do we move it up or not move it
Because
up?
that's one pharmacy. I mean, what's the total script for the whole city
I don't
plan?
have
Do
that.
you know what that
Do you
number
have
is?
that? I bet you can pull somewhere. Because that's the whole thing is we're looking into it, and then we're going to run the data to see what the impact is on the plan. I mean, because to be completely honest, some of the committee, I mean, thought it was a fair idea. Some thought, hey, that's how they do business. They got to figure out how to make money, which is a fair. I mean, I can see it both sides.
You're not very close to the microphone, Tanner.
Sorry.
Here, I'll switch it.
I'll switch sides. So, but I mean, so I can see both sides, but I also know, I mean, we are a small growing town. We want to make sure we take care of our local businesses. I mean, everybody can go buy a vehicle at Woodhouse. I mean, that's your choice, but I'd rather personally spend my money in town because the local dealerships are sponsoring stuffs in town versus Woodhouse.
I'm glad to hear you say that.
Quick question. Who owns Magellan?
Magellan's, so they just merged with Prime Therapeutics. So
And-
so it is now, they do go by Prime
Right.
Therapeutics.
And who owns Prime Therapeutics?
My understanding is that Prime Therapeutics is their own.
It's owned by Blue Cross and Blue Shield.
It's part ownership.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Actually,
they all have some sort of.
Yeah, my point is most all these companies, these PBMs are owned in one form or another by the major insurance companies
Or have a
it's-
stake.
or the major drug makers, one or the other.
They have a stake in it. So the big three that's commonly referred to. So CVS is owned Aetna. Well, actually, ironically, CVS owns Aetna. Optum is owned in a subsidiary of United Health Group. ESI Express Scripts is owned and operated by Cigna. Prime Therapeutics is owned in part by the Blues. Now you got to keep in mind the Blues are not like one. It's not like an Aetna or a United, and I believe it is a minority stake. So the Blues do have a minority stake within Prime. What is of interest though, when they did merge together, the entire C-suite from Magellan is actually the leadership team of all of Prime Therapeutics. So the CEO of Magellan actually took over Prime Therapeutics, which we felt pretty good about because we have a good relationship there. So we felt pretty comfortable with that. But yeah, the Blue does have some level of influence.
But back to Brandon's point is the pharmacy world is one of the only worlds that the middleman makes the biggest slice by substantial amounts. So I mean it's a unique system, and they're also, that world is probably the number one lobbyist in the government. So magically that happens somehow.
Yeah. So what's the time frame of data that you've been comparing? Is that that you've been comparing, is that the 8 months of data or is that years of data?
So when we sent over on the PBM side, we sent over 12 months worth of data.
Just
oh,
one.
rolling 12.
Yep. And it was the same data set for each one on that one.
So yeah, everybody got the same 12
So
months.
it's the last 12 months where our spend for 8 of it anyway has been lower. The
your,
overall healthcare spend has been lower.
your medical's been lower.
Yeah.
Pharmacy stayed about, it has held about current.
Okay.
And I'm gonna grab you the total number of scripts. I just got to run a quick report, and I'll be able to grab you the total number of scripts.
So, but back to that, back to the whole, the whole part of the process is we're just trying to figure out what options we have as the plan and what the impact could be of the plan on, Spencer's already sent a note to Magellan to find out, hey, is this possible? Can we do a different dispensing fee specifically for a set of pharmacies? Because, there's some pharmacies in town that don't need to make an extra $10 or $5 because they're making plenty, right? The big box stores versus helping. But if they say, hey, you just have to do it all, hey, what's the impact for doing it all? So, on the report, if I passed around, the dispensing fee, if you look at the report, the one that had the highest dispensing fee was Lavinity, the Southern Strip's the lowest option at 95 cents. The rest of them were averaging at 20 to 30 cents per fill for dispensing fee. So.
Answer your question. Total overall claim count for the last rolling 12, 5,132 prescriptions filled.
So $10 a pop, that's what,
50
50 some
grand.
thousand dollars if we.
Yeah, $10. Oh, sorry. Yeah, $10. Sorry.
Yeah, if you would go to $10, but like we talked about, that's just, that's the number they just brought up that hey, this is what Medicare and Medicaid are paying. So, which it does
So 55 cents a pop, we're at $2,700 right now, and that would be a big change if we had to go to the 10.
Yeah,
Well, but we want to try to get Magellan to pay for it, right? Isn't that the idea? If you
I-
can.
So this goes back to, and just kind of backing up something that the mayor said. So not to get too far into the weeds, there's a lot of, the pharmacy game is really convoluted, and I think it's meant to be that way. So you have a couple of different things. The city right now is on a pass-through contract. So some ways that PBMs try to make money is through what's called spread pricing. This is what the mayor was referencing. So basically there is what they paid the pharmacy versus what the city actually paid for that same medication. And sometimes there's what's called a spread there. The city is on a transparent pass-through contract. So Magellan is required, whatever they paid the pharmacy is what they're required to charge the city of North Platte. So there's no spread there. However, one of the other challenges that's introduced is, unfortunately, the pharmacy is acquiring that same product for their own price. And there's sometimes a spread between what they acquired that medication for versus what they're being reimbursed by Magellan. So, and then that's with any pharmacy. It's more of a reimbursement. The PBM is reimbursing the pharmacy. And sometimes there's that's where they can also lose money because what they acquired the medication for is not what they're being reimbursed for as well. The dispensing fee, what we're talking about is how much are we going to pay you
Okay.
for the pill bottle.
So that's straight from our plan to them.
correct.
Okay.
yeah, it's a straight pass through. Which if we change, and this got brought up in the committee earlier, it was brought up, is if we change that, technically it doesn't change anything to the employee because it's just on the back end. If it's a $10 copay, it's still a $10 copay. If they decide that, hey, they want to pay generic out of pocket because it's $3, it could impact them at that point because it's going to change that piece. But from a copay perspective, if you choose the copay, it won't impact anything. But yeah, but the way the plan's set up, it's 100% pass through the city. So, what we talked about earlier is we're going to run the data points. We also talked about if we don't want to look at change, we can run this data set again next year, super simple, and we can really push through it again. I also offered, like I said, the local pharmacies haven't really had very much experience with Lavinity Southern Scripts. I don't have any groups with them. I know we have groups with them somewhere in the country. I can get more data if we want to, we want to look into it further. So, it's projecting, what, 300?
Yeah, it was 300. Yeah, it's about 300,000. I'll show you here.
So it's at the point where, it's definitely something to probably try to consider. If it was the other ones, like I said, they're within 100,000 each way, up or down. Oh, sorry. Forget I'm supposed to be on the bike.
I'm going to fine you every time you step away from that thing and talk.
We just need a portable mic for Tanner.
That's
Just here, I'll come over and mow your yard, okay?
That's I've seen how your yard's mowed. Just kidding. Tanner and I live about two houses away from each other. So.
Spencer, do you guys have other groups in Lavinity with Lavinity?
We do. So we do have a couple of groups. They were formerly known as Southern Scripts, so they were kind of more based in the Southern United States. So we've got a contingent of groups. I would say the bulk of our groups are either with Prime Therapeutics. Another big contender is Kroger. We've had some really great success with them. They are owned by the grocery chain store, but they're a really good. Everything I've seen, I think they're a really honest PBM, and so we've had good success with Kroger. We have also been starting to work with a PBM called ServeU. They seem to be, again, another nice outfit. The challenge is, though, again, this is a game. The whole PBM game is buying things in bulk and being able to get good discounts and be able to pay good prices. Because at the same time, we want to make sure that the city has enough leverage to actually buy things at a reduced cost. And because of the Prime Magellan merger, Prime is now the fourth largest pharmacy benefit manager. To put it into perspective, the big three control about 80% of the market. So when I say Prime is now the fourth largest, I think they control like 10 to 15% of the 20% that's remaining. So the big three suck a lot of oxygen out of the room.
And part of the big savings also, as we look at this, I mean, Lavinity also is projecting 350,000 in rebates versus the 200 and some we're having now. I mean, just keep in mind is rebates are, kind of fickle because somebody could change meds, etc. This is just that same data set. So, that is one thing to point out. It's definitely a strong option to consider.
I do think it's relevant to say that because we spend an enormous amount of time analyzing drug spend where I work and also how PBMs work. And your PBM savings is directly proportional to the drugs that are being prescribed by the people you're insuring. So it's very easy for us to experience a better deal this year and have it be different next year. Doesn't mean it necessarily would be worse. Probably it would be if we had a really good year, but it's not probably going to be drastically worse, and it's not probably going to be drastically better. They just tend to do this. But the one thing that can really sort of play havoc is a good example of a recent one is the weight loss drugs, because a lot of plans have excluded them or limited the amount you can use them with because so many people started using them and they were so expensive it was almost bankrupting some plans and things like that. So you can have that sort of variability where a product comes out that no one anticipated was coming and the effect it was going to have, but that doesn't happen very often. So it's great that we did well this year, but my point is don't naturally assume that we're going to do that well again next year because it just depends on how healthy our folks are. That's really what it comes down to.
And actually, to really agree with something that the mayor just said, I want to just point something out to you. So when you look at the underlying data, so you can kind of tell, and I know you can't see it on your screen, but each category, again, there's a performance guarantee that each PBM is giving you saying, hey, in retail brand, I'm going to get you an 18.14% discount. Now, Kroger's coming in and saying, hey, we're going to get you a 20.25% discount. So Kroger's actually saying we're going to be better in retail brand 30. We're going to have a better discount than Magellan is. Now, then as you scroll down, there's other areas where Magellan is going to outperform Kroger because in each category, each PBM has strengths and weaknesses. So to the mayor's point, actually taking that one step further, your drug cocktail next year may be entirely different than it is this year. And it may play to a different PBM's strength. So just because we've looked at one PBM 1 year doesn't mean that that's going to change all that. Or there could be the potential for a large shift in the subsequent years because if the actual cocktail of prescriptions that are being prescribed changes and falls better into that PBM's overall bucket, then there's an advantage there. But, again, the cocktail of medications shifts from year to year. So you want to kind of be slow in making reactionary changes simply because, again, you could win, you do a backwards analysis and say, oh, we would have won with Kroger. Let's switch to Kroger. But then that next year, your cocktail switches, and then you just played to Kroger's weaknesses, and you kind of hurt yourself. That makes sense.
And it's in part driven because the PBMs are somewhat reactionary to those rebates because that's how they make money. So they change their list of available medications based on the deals they're getting from the drug companies. And then that's what creates that variability, because if you can't get drug X on your insurance, you're going to go get drug Y, and that's what makes it change. It's a very simple version of it, but that's what happens.
And in talking to the hospitals being Vintegra, I mean, he said if we would have had more in this category, our number set would have been completely, I mean, Roy said the number set would be, that Roy at Vintegra said the number set would have been completely different.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it just is how it fell.
One thing, and I, again, something that's of interest, I'll give you a really specific example. One of the things, though, that I think is important about what the city has is because we actually process your rebates, we know what the rebates are per prescription. Now, most PBMs cannot share what those rebates dollars are because it's a revenue source for them. So again, it's kind of like the Coke recipe. They're not going to share on Humira, on whatever drug, what that rebate is because they'll say it's proprietary. So the city has an advantage because we actually file those rebates. We know what the rebate dollars are per script. So let me give you a more specific example. Right now, everybody's a little scared of Humira because there was biosimilars that came out onto the market, and they can actually prescribe biosimilars, and they're cheaper. Generally speaking, Humira runs at about $6,000 per month for Humira. The biosimilars are roughly $3,500-ish. Now, something interesting, and again, I think the mayor will enjoy this. What's ironic is there's 3 biosimilars, and all the big 3 PBMs said, we're going to exclude Humira off our formula. Can't take Humira. You have to take a biosimilar. So they're going to completely exclude that drug because it's so expensive. What they fail to mention is that actually the big 3 PBMs actually have an ownership stake in the 3 biosimilars that they're also prescribing. So again, wonderful system that we work in. Mm-hmm. Here's what's of interest. There's no rebates with the biosimilars. So the net cost is $3,500. What we have found is that with rebates, Humira, once you net out rebates, Humira comes out to about $4,000. So now anybody could say, well, hey, the biosimilar is still $500 less expensive net, even with rebates. It's about $500 less. So we should go with the biosimilar. The only reason that you don't want to exclude something like that is because if somebody can't tolerate the biosimilar and they can't take Humira because you've excluded it, the only other alternative drug to that is a drug called Stelara. And Stelara runs at about $15,000 to $16,000 per month. So you have one person that can't take Humira, or that can't take the biosimilar, and you've excluded Humira and then has to go to Stelara. Any kind of savings that you just had, you shot yourself in the foot. And so that's why we haven't recommended excluding Humira, because again, the city's not driven off of rebates. You get rebates back at 100%. So when you remove that part of the equation and say, look, let's just look at the formulary that makes sense, I would rather the city pay an extra $500 for Humira to prevent somebody from taking possibly a Stelara and end up costing the city 3 times the amount because we've excluded Humira. So again, it's an interesting industry that we work in. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you've seen something similar about it.
I probably wouldn't see it to that level of detail in my job. So,
It's interesting.
anybody have any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Ed.
Well, I don't know that I understood about 99% of what you said. But I don't, is there some way that we can make sure that we don't remove our local drugstores from being able to compete in this market? We don't want to drive these people out of business. At least I don't. I don't think anybody does.
And you are seeing small pharmacies across the country close. I mean, and it's not just your plan. I mean, most plans are going to pay in some more fashion this way. If you talk to local pharmacies, there's some employers that they won't fill any scripts for. They're like, you have to go to the big box store because we can't, because the contract is, I mean, you can't make money losing money every
I
time you do
understand
something.
that. That's why I brought it up.
Yep. So, but I mean, there is, like I said, the negotiating or potentially looking at paying a higher dispensing fee is how some employers are supporting this to get support back to the community.
So how much are we gonna have to support them? What kind of dollars are we looking at?
Well, I mean, if we don't, that part, I don't know. We just need to, we first of all have to find out if it's possible. and then find out what the data set's gonna cost. If we went from a 0% dispensing fee to a $10 on the $51,000 scripts, the city would have spent $51,000 last year, more, okay? And on $5 million, you're talking a percent, right? So, but that doesn't mean you have to pay 10. There's other, so it's just, first of all, let's figure out if we can do it the way the program's set up. You should be able to, because I've seen others do it, but each
Well, if we do
contract-
it, we may still end up paying less with the plan that we have, even though we're subsidizing the local people,
depending on how the scripts fall that year, yes, there's a potential.
if I understand correctly.
You're gonna
And
pay, you're
is
gonna
there
have more.
some way then, and I don't want to reward Walgreens, I don't want to reward Walmart. I think those are the two biggest ones here in town. But I sure would like to see these little guys keep their doors open.
I think I think addressing your question, my hope is that we can go to Prime and say, hey, can we buy tin, a tax ID number? Can we reimburse USAVE?
Westfield, whoever, yeah.
Pick a few pharmacies, and can you up your dispensing fee? We don't have to do 10. We could do $1, $2, $3, up their reimbursement. And can you just do that? I am working with Prime to see if their system can do that. And if they can, I think that's a great option. Worst case scenario, they just up the dispensing fee, and then you are giving Walmart, Walgreens, they would be getting an extra. But the majority of your the majority of your claims are running through the local pharmacies. The majority, but I don't want to
Majority
sugarcoat.
of ours are running through the local pharmacies.
Correct.
Here in town, you do have doing mail order. You have all specialty doesn't run through any local pharmacy or Walmart. Those are all outsourced, but a majority of the claims are going to run through the local pharmacies.
Even though they're losing money.
They won't continue to do it forever, though.
No,
That's exactly right.
we're at the tipping point. That's
Yeah.
why they're negotiating back.
I think that's something we need to look at. If there's any way we can excise the CVS's and the Walgreens and the Walmarts, I say go for it. They're not playing on a level playing field. They may say they are, but they aren't. And we know it. And,
Yeah, we will get that data.
the Walmarts and the Walgreens, Lane, we can't even get them to mow their grass.
Tanner said he'll do it.
Why should we give them a rebate?
Not mowing Walmart's grass.
He's not going to see Walgreen.
No. Not mowing
No, and-
Walmart's grass.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I've come to the same conclusion with just a little different path. To me, it's about choice. If one of the city employees wants to go to Walmart's pharmacy, then they should go to Walmart's pharmacy. And if they want to go to USAVE and have extra advice, or Westfield and people they know and longevity and all that, I think the key is that trying to give them as much choice as we can locally. What I don't want to see is the Westfields and USAVEs and all those getting boxed out, to where to where people lose that choice.
Because as
Yeah.
a consumer, I never will know
Yeah.
what kind of a tipping fee or whatever you call it,
Right.
that Westfield's gonna get compared to Walmart. I know what the drugs are costing me, that's where I go.
And
And
it's
I-
not, oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, and I think the path you're going to look to see if you can do a Westfield or you save solely, see what your plan will provide. I don't know. It's kind of a morality road to walk down to subsidize with taxpayer money a farm. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
You know
that's
what
an
I mean.
interesting topic, Pete, that we probably talked about Tuesday night, but anyway.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying, to see if the plan itself can work that in as opposed to the city paying for that. That's just kind of a little bit of a path that,
The way the plan with it being completely transparent, gonna be very difficult to make that happen. Magellan would have to readjust contracts possibly, right?
Yeah.
Well, why don't you guys check it out?
Yeah,
Let
you
us
guys
know,
look at
because
that.
the-
That's
you're
that's why-
thinking that in the right path.
that's why other PBMs have come into existence, is
Yeah.
to
Get
be
rid of
able
the
to
big
do
guys.
some of these things that the big ones won't do, basically. So we'll see that. So, okay.
Real
Anybody-
quick.
Go ahead.
This isn't the meeting where you're going to talk about our reinsurance. That's probably next month. Is that right? Or have you done any reinsurance shopping yet?
Yeah, actually, I'll make quick work of this. We can, just in case I had my spreadsheet pulled up, just in case I got asked the question. So we are shopping your reinsurance. Your renewal's coming up in April. So, again, we shop your group with a number of different markets because of the way you're running this year. You can actually see, again, each column is a variety of different stop loss markets. So right now, I've got a market coming in right now at about a 7% increase. So again, I would expect Voya, because of the way that you run this year, I would expect Voya to compete with that. So again, looking into my crystal ball with how you've run, I would expect that we'll be in the low single digits for a renewal for you. And that should be probably sometime in the very near future. So again, kind of going to the point that Tanner brought up at the very beginning of the meeting, where everybody else is staring down 20%.
So 7% on our reinsurance is approximately what, $140,000?
Yeah, about 100,000.
So
And-
that's just the fixed cost.
And,
Obviously.
and we look at that fixed cost, and then we look at where our plan's sitting this year. So hopefully we can keep our rates pretty steady.
One of the things that I just had, I pulled up a couple, again, I'll keep this very brief. Again, the city from a financial perspective has run actually quite well this year. As you look, at previous years, you've had, going all the way back to 2019, 29 large claims, 31, 19, 19, 28, 29. And this year you only have 18 large claims. So, knock on wood, again, you've had kind of a good year from a large claim perspective.
What's considered a large claim?
Over
how many
the
dollars?
specific point, 100,000 is
Over 100?
it was 110.
110.
Sorry.
So
110?
anything over 55,000. So again, you've seen a decrease in kind of that large spike claim. And to put a reference point on it, the thing that we're going to use with Voya is you've paid, battery. You paid out, about $1 million in premium, and had $200,000 in claims. Now, the year prior to that, you paid out $800,000 in premium and had $2.3 million in reimbursements. So, again, we're going to use that with them. And then the last thing I was just going to show you real quick is how you're running from a PEPM perspective, per employee per month. You're down as a trend perspective. So this is kind of getting to Lane's question. Your fixed costs may be going up about 7-ish%. I'm going to probably advocate that we probably raise budgets, probably 1 or 2%, maybe even 3%. I know we kind of want to hold that flat. Here's what I'll tell you. Your trend line right now, looking at a 24-month trend line, it's the far right. Your claims trend are about 14% decrease. So I just want to be conservative with the budget. We've got, I think, about $5 million in reserve. I'd like to continue. The city's done a very good job of being conservative and a good steward of your overall account. So I think there might be a situation where maybe we can hold it flat. But the plan's running well. So I think from a budgetary perspective for you, reinsurance will probably be low single digits. Budgetary, what we actually charge the city, and then ultimately employee premiums will be 0, 1, maybe 2%. Maybe I should just throw out 3
we'll
just in
talk.
case.
Which is really good.
It
like
is
I said,
really
based on
good,
what
but-
I told you when we started, that's a very, very
It is really
thing
good.
to
I'm
be
just
able to provide to your employees.
always pushing down. So, yep.
Can you talk to us about care coordination? I know it's just 8 months in this year, but how's everything going with the merger of the new program and care coordination, and just how's things going with all that?
Yeah. I think one of the comments that I made to the insurance committee was you don't by happen chance get to be in a spot where everybody else is at a 20% increase and the city is looking at 0. That doesn't just come by sleepwalking. So the care coordinators are pushing things like, and I'll just kind of touch on this real quick. This was something that I brought up, and of course now I've timed out, but I brought up with the insurance committee, the care coordinators are pushing things like paid health. Paid health just helps with pharmaceutical costs. Over the last 4 years, Paid Health has saved about $1.4 million in manufacturer assistance and other programs. So I'll just show that to you real quick. And what is of interest of that in particular is that over that time horizon, so $1,366,000 that the city has avoided paying pharmaceutical companies in overall costs, members have paid in total over those 4 years $160 in copays. It's a pretty phenomenal program. The care coordinators are pushing that. And then overall utilization of the care coordinators. I was going to have that report pulled up and I closed it. So shame on me for that one. Well, Ty, I think you're just asking, how's the marriage between first choice and the care coordinators? Was that kind of what you're asking?
Yeah, and if Lane has any comments from how the employees feel, just an overall state of the union on how that's all gone, I
I
guess.
mean, there was a few hiccups when we first changed plans, but as far as overall with the care coordinators and with the plan and everything, I think most people are pretty happy with it now. We've seen a few people that something that they've had done, maybe it's costing them a little more out of pocket. We still have the same maximum out of pocket, so in the long run, it's not going to cost them more. But for those initial claims, but there's other things that are costing less for some people too. So I mean, and that's any plan that's going to have that. I think overall it's been a good change, and the care coordination utilization continues to go up with our employees as we continue to push our health programs. We're pushing this year some smoking cessation programs, hoping that people would maybe try that, and some other things to continue with the health of our employee base, which hopefully plays into all this as well. So I think overall it's been good.
Ty, go into some of the data that you're asking for. So the care coordinators have touched. So anybody who's had a claim, any type of medical claim on your plan, Quantum has had interaction with that member. They've engaged 92%. To put some more kind of granular numbers on that, anybody with claims that have the claims over $100,000 in total overall medical claims, Quantum is 100% engaged with anybody over 100,000. They're 91% engaged with anybody between 10,000 and 100,000, and they're 36% engaged with those with sub 10,000. Average overall engagements per member. So per employee, they're averaging 8.3 engagements with the care coordinators. That means every single employee averaged is having at least 8.5 conversations with the care coordinators from an overall perspective. So I guess, Ty, to your question, are we using the care coordinators? Yes. And are we probably using them where we really need them on the high cost claimants? Yes. Last thing I'll just kind of point out is this screen, and again, I have no doubt that it's probably hard to read on that side. So if you guys want some of these slides, happy to happy to send them over to Lane and share them. Your team, Quantum is now, so I'll keep this brief because I know we're out of time. Quantum is now using AI in all of the phone calls. So they have an AI bot listening to the phone calls. And basically the bot is taking notes on the phone calls of what's being discussed. So that way the care coordinator's kind of been freed up to really assist the member. And then we actually have the data on what's being talked about in those phone calls. So on that first column in the green, it's network and steerage. So they had 222 calls that they fielded where people were calling about the network. Hey, I have no doubt, we got this new network. What is it about? Who's in network? All of those things. Cost and transparency, prescription savings, predetermination point solutions. There were overall 245 interactions on that side. What I really like about where I see Quantum's engagement, it's the third column in, it's called solutioning. So that's where they had the most engagement with your employees, which tells me that your population is more advanced with Quantum, because they're not talking about what's my deductible, what's my out of pocket. They're calling Quantum, and 154 of their discussions were about claims advocacy. 128 were about claims denial assistance. 45 were approval barrier resolution. 43 were PBM related barriers. 21 was reduced financial burden, and then 31 was other interventions. And then again, on the far right one, which is clinical support, 443 of those were about authorizations, 21 are about medical reconciliation, 21 were about post-discharge support. So what I see your utilization of the care coordinators, it's more clinical in nature than it is just like, what's my deductible? I love to see that. I really feel like the engagement that the city is getting out of Quantum is far deeper than superfluous items. Not that those are.
So is that far right column, is that discussions with doctors' offices or hospitals, or are those also with employees on that
Both.
right side?
So
Okay,
the care
okay.
coordinators, so what makes Quantum unique is that the one phone number that's on your member's card is the same number for providers.
Okay.
So the team of 30 care coordinators that your team is calling is the same pod that providers are calling as well. So it's very possible that your member could hang up the phone with one care coordinator and their provider call in and speak to the same care
Okay.
coordinator.
Okay, we're a little bit over. Anyone have any other relevant questions? Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate being here today. Meeting adjourned.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.